to that I say this, and I'm a challenge. To that mindset I say this, were you ever even on fire to begin with? Because this is a passion. And when you understand when your passion and your purpose collide, when those two collide, you're powerful. Powerful.
Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder, and you'll meet Chris Kent Phelps in just a bit. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you.
Chris, Michelle, hey,
You're here.
I'm here. You're here.
We're back.
What a day.
Yeah, I have such a visceral, positive, and soul-stirring reaction to the guest that everyone is about to meet, Dr. Rick Flores. And I imagine that you had the same experience. Is that true?
I don't think anyone could come in contact with him and not have that experience. So yes, it is true.
Yeah. Tell everyone a little bit about his story before he fills in the blanks.
He's remarkable. And I'm going to share just a little bit because I think he did such a great job talking about his own story that I want to just get to him quickly. But he is, to me, a walking testimony to the power of education. He's very clear-eyed about the difficulties of the job, but he's gratitude personified and so laser focused on impact and opportunity. You can't listen to this interview and not be inspired to make a difference. I love this. He went from an early bloomer in the principal's office to being the current principal at Lanier High School. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, in the San Antonio area, with the aspirations and the credentials to be superintendent. So I have no doubt he will become a superintendent. He's been in education and music, which I think matters a lot, for 30 years. As a child, he found his safe place in education and had powerful experiences beginning in middle school that really shifted the trajectory of his life, which he'll speak to today, and set the bar very high thanks to what in my head is a merry band of educators who kind of came around him and helped him launch in the world. I love that he tells students, never let your zip code determine your destiny. And that message really resonates because of the power of his story, which he's going to tell us. And I will let listeners know, this is the first guest that I think almost made you weep. You were very, very close, and simultaneously made me want to be a try-hard. So let's have a listen and figure out what a try-hard is.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's listen.
Bet.
Hello, Rick.
Hello, good afternoon.
It's so nice to have you here.
Likewise. Well, thank you again for the opportunity. Certainly, it's my pleasure.
For the listeners, we got to know each other last summer. I had the pleasure of moderating a panel that you spoke on. And from that time, we've been desperate to get you on the podcast because everything that came out of your mouth was just so clearly grounded in your experience. And it landed for the audience in a way that was palpable. I don't know if you could feel it, but I definitely could.
Yes, absolutely. You know, any time that I get an opportunity to share not only the tremendous opportunities we have in the field of education, I think we're at a critical time right now in education, but also know that with the incredible amount of challenges that our educators are currently facing, also wanted to come to the realization that there are many, many opportunities for us. So in the midst of the storm, how can we capitalize on the opportunities to better equip our students? And, you know, as I shared last summer, every student, I view them through the lens of, these are my children. I have 4 children. I'm blessed to be a dad of 4, right? But each one of my kiddos that come here to my high school, looking at our students the way that I would want others in their educational spaces to view them is very important to me.
The energetic difference of dealing with the exact same events from a place of exhaustion, depletion, hopeless, helpless, or clear-eyed that this is hard and even bad? And how are we going to show up? That's the juicy part. Like, that's what I hear in what you just shared.
Yeah, absolutely. We know the challenges are going to be there. And this is not a surprise. I knew what I was walking into 30 years ago. It's shifted since COVID. I think we have to acknowledge that. And we're still dealing with some of the remnants of that. But we have to acknowledge the hard. And it is going to be there. And I feel like our teachers and our system as a whole is being challenged in so many, many different ways. But for us, it's how can the message to my team as we prepare here for the following week is, how are you showing up every day matters to our kids. It is important that we show up, and we show up strong, because if there's ever been a time when our students need us, it's now. If there's ever been a time that our parents need us, it's now. So we're on the starting lineup. There are no bench warmers on this team. So we've got to ensure that, the best and the brightest get on the court first. And and for all the San Antonio Spurs fans out there, I have to do a shout out. We are the starting lineup. So it's important every day that we're showing up for our students and that we're at our absolute best. But it's important that we also, in the field of education, right, that how are we filling our cup is just as important. Because you can't pour into others when you're on empty. So how do you fill up is very, very important.
I want to hear your thinking about that, but I want to rewind us, because if anyone has the opportunity to read your bio, it becomes clear why everything out of your mouth is so embodied and so grounded. And I wonder if you'll share some of your story. And, one of the things that jumped out to me is that even as a very young boy, you understood that the school building was your safety, and that you would even intentionally get detention because it meant safe adult, food. Tell us a bit about your story.
Oh, yes. It started in kindergarten. I was an early bloomer into the principal's office, if you will. And, I till this day, I pray for my kindergarten teacher that I had back in the day. I would intentionally find myself getting into some trouble and making sure that I got on my teacher's radar, because I knew that if I stayed after school, I would get a snack. Cookies go a long way, and I would get some milk back then. And yes, I would have to stay after school. But, it was hard. It was hard because mom was a single parent, and she struggled. And it was just mom and myself. And I'm a product of Section 8 housing, government housing, welfare, food stamps, you name it. We're on every government assistance program imaginable. Going to school was, like I said, was the safest place because I knew that I was going to have breakfast. I knew that there would be lunch. Dinner, didn't always know if dinner was going to be there. So if it meant that I had to get into some trouble and talk a little bit more excessively than others, and I was determined to do that so that I can at least have a snack at the end, because I knew when I got home, I would be going to bed. And the next day I went to bed early. Till this day, I still go to bed early. I said, why do you go to bed so early? Well, because it all goes back to when I was younger. I went to bed early so I can get up earlier so I can go to school, because I knew there was going to be a warm breakfast there in the morning. And to me, that was very important. Growing up in the housing projects was certainly not easy. It was very, very challenging. A lot of crime, a lot of drugs, just about anything and everything you can imagine as a child growing up that I experienced, and being in the inner city was very, very hard. I was determined at a very young age, though, that I was going to do life differently. Didn't know quite what that would look like or sound like or turn out like, but I'm very grateful I remember in fifth grade, Mr. Rivas, he was my fifth grade teacher. And I'm going to backpedal real quick. Fourth grade with Mr. Valencia. And Mr. Valencia, I went from being the kiddo who got in trouble to being the kiddo that became the class president. Go figure, in fourth grade. And that was a miracle in and of itself. But I had never had a male teacher before. That was the first time with Mr. Valencia, and he was the most gentle man. And then Mr. Rivas, I'll never forget, the last day of school, back then they gave you a report card. They would say, hey, this is going to be your fifth grade teacher next year. And I saw Mr. Rivas on there. And I think they knew this Ricky needs another male figure in his life, because I had none. And Mr. Rivas came behind me. He whispered in my ear and he said, next year, Ricky, you're mine. And I'm thinking, oh my, it's not going to get any easier for me. And he was tough. It was tough love, but I knew that he loved me and he cared for me. And I'll tell you, at the end of my 5th grade year, we took the state exam. And he says, out of the entire 5th grade class, in this classroom, we only had one student score an A. And I remember looking back at that student who was the smartest student in my class. And I said, that was you. And then he says, actually, it was Ricky. And boy, let me tell you, my confidence soared because I went from that kiddo in kindergarten getting in trouble to get just a snack to stay after school to 4th grade, where I became the class president. And then in 5th grade, where I became the top performer on the state assessment. And I began to believe in myself. I think for the first time that I could do it. And that was very, very tough because the challenges were very, very real in my home. And mom had her struggles. She had her own fair share of struggles dealing with the separation and divorce of her and my dad, and myself trying to navigate through all of that was very, very challenging. So much to the point that in 6th grade, it was my middle school band director that I spoke about in my bio, Alfonso Villarreal, who says, I'm putting a cornet in front of you and this will be your ticket. And Ricky, and if you hold on to this instrument and if you work hard, it's going to take you places you never imagined. Little did I know I'd become a music major. Year 30 now in the field, 15 years I spent as a music director. Today I had the pleasure of conducting my symphonic band. Yesterday, my wind ensemble here at the high school. Little did I know that what he was placing in my hands was something that's going to be so powerful and so meaningful. And he said, Ricky, I need you to practice every day, practice diligently, and it's going to take you far. And till this day, we still connect. And so very powerful.
It's so powerful. And it's example after example after example of teachers showing up, just doing their job. It's nothing heroic, but it's trajectory shifting.
Yes.
That they saw you, that they spoke identity into you.
Yes, absolutely. And he says, here's your cornet. Now go run with it. And every day I'd be like, sir, can we practice together? Sir, can we after school? Because I did everything I could. I was not very skilled at athletics. That is certainly not my gifting. It was music. But I was in football, soccer, track, cross country, anything to keep me from going home. You could sign me up and at the middle school level. And so Villarreal, Mr. Villarreal, my director was there for me, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, had that continuity of having him for 3 years. I struggled in 9th grade, though. I have to be real. In 9th grade, I struggled because I didn't have Mr. Villarreal. I'd had him for 3 years. He was my sounding board. He was like a dad figure to me. And in 9th grade, that's when I actually wanted to end my life. And I did. And it's not that I wanted to necessarily hurt myself, but it was that I just wanted the pain to stop.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I was at, because for the first time I didn't have him anymore. And he never knew about that actually until probably about 6 years ago, when I had him come in as my special guest at my middle school that I'm serving as a principal right down the street. And I said, let me tell you how powerful this man was. Not only did he place an instrument in my hands, and I said, but I actually thought about ending my life, because this man was always there for me. And all of a sudden I found myself at the fork in the road in high school in 9th grade, where I didn't know if I wanted to do this anymore. I was tired of the drugs. I was tired of the alcohol. I was tired of the verbal abuse. I was just tired. And I just wanted it all to end. And let me tell you, I'm so grateful for those that work with the suicide hotlines and that are there for people like me back in 1986, when I didn't know which way I wanted my life to go. And I wouldn't be here for those individuals along the way that were there to just guide and provide that support.
It's such a beautiful articulation of what folks who are contemplating ending their life might be actually feeling. I want the pain to stop, and I can't see a path forward for that to happen other than this. That's really different than some of the narratives that get played out there.
Yeah. So the one thing I knew how to do was work hard, right? I said, I may not be the smartest kiddo in the classroom, but I'm going to be the hardest worker, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to show up to the best of my ability. And, I come from a family that was more like, hey, mijo, you know what? As long as you get a 70 and you pass, you're good, right? It wasn't a whole lot of pressure at the house to to really excel academically.
Mhm.
But it was my charge. I wanted 90 and above on just about everything. And it was my middle school principal right before going to ninth grade, James Cattell, who at the eighth grade ceremony, he literally stops the ceremony and he says, I'm going to stop right here. And you all know Ricky Flores, and I'm right in the center of the stage, eighth grade ceremony. I mean, the auditorium is filled with families except for mine. And he says, Ricky will someday become the drum major for the band at Burbank High School. And I'm thinking, that sounds pretty cool. I wonder what a drum major is. I didn't know, but I knew it was a good thing because my principal telling me. And he says, and Ricky will be one of the first in his family, to attend the university. Ricky will not only attend, but Ricky's going to graduate. And Ricky someday will become a band director. And then he said, and you never know, Ricky may someday become a principal. And I'm thinking, now I know Mr. Cattell has lost it. But little did I know that the power of words, right?
Yeah.
Every word that principal middle school level spoke has come to pass.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
again, the power of your words.
And the words, the belief, the refusal for a student to be invisible.
Yes.
It's
That's
so powerful.
Yes, and I found that it was so much of the negative self-talk that I had with myself because even till this day I'm even at my age I'm my own hardest critic. No one is going to be harder on me than Rick is going to be on Rick. And I think we have to be real mindful of the self-dialogue that we have, that I always, that I speak to even to my students about, even to my own personal children, is to be very mindful of the conversations that you're having internally. And because sometimes people can see things in you that you can't even see in yourself. And so that's been, to me, now it's been, and I think I went to one extreme to another because people have always asked, what has been, even through, especially completing the doctoral program, says, hey, Rick, what's been your driver? Man, success, it just drives you. When you were a band director, getting to state nationals was top priority. And yes, it was. And being successful in your field is important to you. Yes, it is. They said, your driver has always been success. I said, no. I said, if I'm going to be very transparent, it's the fear of failure that's been my driver. It's not been success that I've been chasing. I was surrounded by poverty, surrounded by so much failure that I didn't want to feel that feeling anymore. So if it meant that I was going to have to, as my kids say, my own children say, Dad, you're such a try hard. Yes, I'm going to try my best at everything that I do, because I've always said this: anything that your hand touches, anything that you do, it must be excellent. And I try and live by that motto. And I'll tell you, I don't always get it right, but certainly that is my goal.
And I've heard you say the fear of failure for you is about everything you just shared. And it's also about not allowing the students that see themselves in you have anything but an extraordinary story to look at and aspire to and know is possible.
Yes. And to me, here at the high school, going portable has been one of the biggest game changers for me. So I have a portable desk. I have a portable device, and I'm taking it with me in the hallways, and I take this show on the road because I've always said we get paid way too much to be in our offices. That's not my role. My role is to be visible, to be available to my students, to my teachers, should they need any type of support. And let me just tell you what it does for the relationships, right? I said, when people don't see you, they'll create stories. And I am not going to allow that to happen to the maximum extent. Yes, there are times when we need that office space, but that should not be the norm. That should be the exception. And so to me, connecting with my students is very, very important, because I understand the power of connection. And I've always said, in our schools, there is no doubt that we want our students to perform well academically. But if our students are not well, it makes it that much more of a challenge.
Yeah. And I imagine that extends to your faculty as well.
Absolutely.
The parallel process.
Yes,
How do
absolutely.
you take care of the folks that work with you?
An interesting point you bring up. I met with one of my colleagues here before dismissal today, and the expectation here at the high school is all of my teachers are at doors. They're in all transitions, welcoming and greeting students, and that's also my opportunity to do wellness checks on my teachers to make sure that they're well. All my teachers have my cell number. They don't always take me up on it. I said, send me a message. You need a cup of coffee, anything you need, you let me know, because my job is to make sure that I support my teachers, because if I take care of my teachers, I know they're going to take care of our kids.
Exactly.
And when I first transitioned to administration, I remember the superintendent that appointed me as assistant principal at my former high school. That's another story at Burbank. He assigned me to Burbank as an assistant principal, and he comes in the first day of school, and he says, Ricky, he says, what is your number one priority as the assistant principal? I mean, this is like my first day on the job, and I'm thinking I was not ready for this. And I'm thinking, Lord, please help me not blow it. And I said, of course, my students, they're my number one priority. It's my kids. And he says, no, sir. In this role, you take care of your teachers. They take care of the students. Now, if the kiddos are your number one responsibility, and they should be, however, in this role, you take care of the teachers, they'll take care of the kids. If you don't take care of your teachers, you better watch out with who's not being faithful with the kids, taking care of the students. And I said, yes, sir, you're absolutely right. But I'm going to tell you, it took me about 2 weeks to really to marinate in that word, because I wasn't buying it at first, because I was 15 years in the classroom, and my kiddos, they're center stage, right? And even today, they're still center stage for me. But I also have to be cognizant that I need to be at my best for my teachers so that they can be at their best for my kiddos. And I also need to find ways to fill my cup so that I can pour into my teachers, because you can't give what you don't have. And finding that balance, I'm going to tell you that it's very, very challenging. And I'm a work in progress. If I were a construction sign, it would say, Ms. Kinder, I'm a work in I'm under construction, but it certainly wouldn't say, I'm ready, because I'm not.
I want to be right next to you with the same shirt on, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you fill your cup? What have you found works for you?
My family, I think it's important that how we show up at school is important. How we show up for our colleagues is important. But I remember one thing that one of my pastors once mentioned, and he stated something to the effect of, he says, Ricky, you're Texas Teacher of the Year back in 2004. I was blessed to be the Trinity Prize winner for educators in San Antonio and Bexar County. And he said, you've been to state, you've been to nationals, you've gotten a lot of recognition in your career, Rick, and that's wonderful. However, it would be a shame if at the end of your career, you're known as a public success, but a private failure in your own home. And that resonates very, very deeply for me. I have an amazing wife, my wife Connie, for almost 27 years this December. And I have 4 amazing kiddos, my Ricky, my Isaiah, my Elijah, and my Rebecca. They're my heartbeat. They're my everything. And I want to be for them. I remember struggling when I first married my wife. We were young in our marriage. And I said, how do you learn to be an amazing husband if I didn't see that modeled? How do I learn to be an amazing father if I didn't have that model in my own home? And I remember my pastor said, he says, what are some things that you would have hoped for and wished for that your father would have been to your mom? And I said, oh, here's a list. Boom, boom. I just started naming it. What about as a dad? What do you wish would have happened for you? And I just started listening. He said, all those things you just said, Ricky, you need to be that. And I said, thank you. I get it. Now I get it, because I struggled with that. Yeah. So my balance is my family time. I'm a trumpet player. I still play trumpet. I have a 3rd-year college student, and he just got accepted to the University School of Music. My senior just got accepted to the School of Music. And so music is what brings us together in our home. And so everyone's required, well, not required, just strongly encouraged to play an instrument. So, music has been, because again, back to my director, right? Director Alfonso Alvarado, Villarreal, I'm sorry, Mr. Villarreal, my band director in middle school. Because of him, now we're all in music. And what's beautiful, Ms. Kinder, is in January, I conducted the region band for one of the regions here in San Antonio. And my special guest was my middle school
Oh,
band director.
incredible.
And I reminded the middle school directors, never underestimate the impact and the influence that you have in the life of a young person. I said, because oftentimes the high school teachers get all the credit, but let me tell you, the credit for me goes to my middle school director who took the time to invest in me. And if it wasn't for him, my children wouldn't know music. I wouldn't have the privilege of standing in front of 85 middle schoolers, the top all-stars in the entire region. And so what an amazing opportunity. He was in tears. I held back, but it was beautiful to have him there, my director, in that space where everyone can see just the impact that a teacher can have.
Oh, I mean, it's massive.
Yes.
Was he able to articulate what it was like for him to see you now and to hear the impact he had on you?
Yes, we got to reconnect afterwards, and of course he's very, very proud. And as a matter of fact, I believe one of his nephews was also turned out to be in the band, in that region group. So little did I know that he had family in the band as well. And so it was just a beautiful moment for us, really, and it really validates his career and his journey in a way that I'm hoping that my own journey here, spending 15 years as a music director, and I still have that opportunity. You said, how do you balance? I have found more ways to go back to that first love for me, which was music. And so I still get to work with groups in preparation for contests. I still get to judge and adjudicate contests and provide
Even
coaching.
Today
Even
you
today,
were with a group of kids, right?
Yeah, even today, in spite of the challenges this morning, right? Being able to go into that space where the students see the real.
Mhm.
And I say, we talk about how are we showing up, right, for our students and for our teachers. But what an opportunity to just switch hats, if you will, because we're all learners. And I had a kiddo here at the end of the day and comes up to me with my assistant principals and says, "Hey, Dr. Flores, excuse me, but when are you going to come back and work our band again?" And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that just made my day, because we really want you to come back and work with us. And so to me, that's just, I call those my God wink moments, right? Where it's like, okay, it's going to be all right. We're going to make it here. And I just want our students and to understand that, we're out here to support them. And I want my adults here in the building to know that, when I first, through the public schools in the last 15 years in admin, at the end of announcements here at the high school, what I remind our kids is that I want you to take care of yourself because that's important. I want you to take care of one another because that matters. And let's take care of our school. If we do those three things, we can really shift the culture of our school. Take care of yourself because that's important. Let's take care of one another. That's just the right thing to do. And let's take care of our school. And let me tell you, that simple phrase right there can just elevate a whole campus right there, where we're more supportive of each other. But it's more important that I model that, right? That I'm modeling that for not only my adults in the building, for my colleagues, but for my students as I'm coming into classrooms. And I often remind our admin, you don't need to go into a classroom with your Chromebook or your laptop for another evaluation. Can we just go into these spaces just to sit in a small group, connect with our kids, connect with our teachers? This is not an I gotcha. This job is too heavy for all of us. This needs to be more of a how can I help you? Not I gotcha. This is not why I'm in the business. And when people ask me, they say, "How are you?" If you ask my staff here, they'll tell you, Flores always says, "Living the dream." And although for some they may say, "Why does he say that?" See, they don't know my story. If they knew my story, this has exceeded any expectations I would have ever had. I'm grateful that I get to walk into this space and place. I'm grateful that my community trusts me and that we're partnering together and locking arms to elevate this community. This to me is a full-time ministry. This is not a job. I don't clock in and clock out. This is like a 24/365 where I have an opportunity every day to just positively impact those that I come in contact with. So, that's a responsibility I take very seriously.
Oh, I'm certain they feel it. I'm certain they feel how authentic it's offered.
Yes, ma'am.
Amazing.
Hi, I'm Katie Worden, producer of Oxygen for Educators. I want to spotlight our sponsor, Tacky Box. TackieBox is an elementary school program that pairs innovative content with a tactile tool in daily practice to teach children to self-monitor their own words and actions and their responses to others. It's a proven tool that reduces behavior incidents by 66%. Through daily self-reflection, students build self-awareness, self-regulation, and meaningful connections. TackieBox is a light lift for teachers with a big impact on student well-being. Go to tackiebox.com to learn more and become a TackieBox district.
So when you think about kind of all the pressures on educators right now, because it does feel like a different moment in time, even than a year ago, what worries you the most, and what do you think is the opportunity that is uniquely present because of the intensity of the current challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I think the challenges in our field is that we do not want to discourage the next generation of future educators to join our field. And sometimes, there is such a shortage of teachers across the state of Texas and across the nation. Sometimes we do that to ourselves. When we speak about education, we have to be real careful as professional educators how we speak about this field. If we continue to speak, it's so hard, and it is. There are so many hours you have to commit outside of, and there are. The work is endless, yes, and it is. However, we cannot discourage others from joining our field. We need the best and the brightest to become educators, those that want to impact the life of others. Because yes, this is going to be it's a full-time, to me, it's a full-time ministry. And this is not something that can be taken lightly. I told my children, my third-year college student who wants to be a music education director, my senior in high school wants to be a music education director. And I'm thinking internally, Ms. Kinder, I'm thinking, don't do it. Don't do it. The very thing I'm saying don't do is what I'm doing to my own children. But I'm having this internal dialogue inside. Please, Lord, don't let them not do it. Be a fireman, be a police officer, be this. I'm giving them options. And so they both sat me down one day, and it was powerful. They say, Dad, we need to speak to you. And I said, oh my, here it goes. Because I never know what I'm going to get from my kiddos sometimes. And they say, Dad, we want to talk to you about college and what we want to study. And I said, okay. So I sit there, and they're like, Dad, we want to become music directors. And I'm thinking, don't do it. Don't. And then my senior in high school says, Dad, here's why. And I'm thinking, why? He says, Dad, because there's a legacy in our family now. Oh. And I was like, how can I argue that? There's a legacy. And Dad, everything you have done, we have watched you. And we just want to follow in your footsteps. And in that internal dialogue where I was like, don't do it, I'm thinking, boy, that switched on me. Man. And I looked at my two children and I said, tell me how I can help you now to make that happen. From don't do it, I don't want you to go in education. It is hard right now. It is, especially post-COVID, it is tough. And to have my own children I'm at the end of my career, but to have them just get started, and I can only imagine how much more challenging it could become. And do I want them to be a part of that system? But when they said, Dad, this is our legacy, this is our story. And I said, baby, just tell me what you need. And I got you. You have my support.
Incredible.
So there's the opportunity that I think we have as professional educators, as we're speaking into the lives of the next generation of educators. We have an education program here at the high school, and our students have the opportunity to go down to the elementary school and actually teach. They get training here to become, so when they graduate, they get their certification to become an instructional assistant. And I went to go observe our students a few months back at the elementary, and I was just in awe at the work that our students were doing. And I'm thinking, this is the next generation here. We cannot discourage the next generation of young people that have a heart and a passion for this work. And like I told my children, my own kids, is, baby, if you're going to do this work, you've got to be all in. There is no half-stepping education. There is, and I know there's some in the field that say, gosh, you get burned out. And to that I say this, and I'm a challenge to that mindset. I say this: were you ever even on fire to begin with?
Mm.
because this is a passion. And when you understand when your passion and your purpose collide,
Mm.
when those two collide, you're powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful.
And your
This is not a job.
your
Mhm.
kids understand that call to meaning
Yes.
at their ages, both in terms of continuing your legacy, and they've watched that every day you go to work and you literally change lives.
Yes. You know what was beautiful is just the other day I was working with my top group, my wind ensemble, and my son comes in and he's observing. And that was pretty powerful. And he was just like, man, Dad, that was pretty cool that you're the principal and you get to put down the radio and you go up there and you work with the bands. And that's just awesome. And I said, well, thank you, son. And then I used to keep my kiddos away from seeing those experiences, but now I bring them into those moments.
Mm-hmm.
We have to bring them into those moments so that they understand that, boy, you know what? You have the whole world in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And the possibilities are just endless. And in our community, we are in one of the poorest zip codes in the state of Texas in 78207. But I'll tell you what we will not do. We will not allow the zip code nor a parent's W-2 form to determine my level of expectation for our community and for our students. I mean, I was that Section 8 housing kid. I was at the government assistance kiddo. I'm grateful that I had people that said, no, Ricky, that's wrong. You're going to go this direction. I'm grateful that I had people that cared enough for me who said, no. My counselor in high school who said, no, mijito, you're going to go to the university. No, miss, I'm happy working at the grocery store, right? I'm happy working at the tiendita. I'm a custodian, miss. I'm good. I'll just stay. I'll be packing groceries. I'm good. And she's like, oh, no, you're going to go to college. And I said, no, miss, I'm not college material. I don't even have money. And she goes, I'll find you the money. You have the GPA. You're going to go. So let me tell you backstory real quick. Texas Lutheran, when they accepted me at the college level, and I was so just blown away that anyone would want me at the college. I was just like shocked. And I remember driving in my 1975 Omega Oldsmobile that was in so many different colors. It was embarrassing. I had to get on the highway, that's a whole nother story. If I went 36 miles an hour, the car would literally turn off. So I'm going down the highway, down I-10, 35, 34 miles an hour. It takes me about an hour and 15 minutes to get to Seguin, Texas. And when I get there, they said, your payment is due. It's $5,500. And I said, Miss, that's okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. I don't think college is for me. And thank you. And they said, Ricky, but wait, Carol needs to see you, Miss Hamilton. She's a financial aid advisor. And so I went to the back office and I was just ready. I was ready to come back to San Antonio.
That was it.
At 35 miles an hour. And she says, Ricky, you have a full scholarship from the San Antonio Police Department. Mm. You have a full scholarship to study music. You have nothing to worry about. All your financials are taken care of for you. And I said, what about my meals? Covered. What about my dorm? Covered. Miss, I don't even have money for books. She said, here's $1,000 and gave me the money. And I thought of every excuse to leave because I was so uncomfortable because I wasn't used to that environment.
Right.
And I never knew, and I knew we were called a minority. But when I was in high school, I'm like, what do you mean minority? It was like 99% Hispanic at my school. But then I get to the next level. Boy, did I learn what minority meant. Because there was no more than about 20, 25 kiddos that looked like me. The only ones that looked like me were the cafeteria staff members and the custodians. And I said, do I belong here? I'm not sure I belong here. But again, I had teachers there, professors who were like, Ricky, we're going to help you. And again, it was my band director at the university level, Lee Boyd Montgomery. He said, young man, you're going to be a great educator someday. I said, sir, I'm not interested in being a teacher. He says, no, you're going to be an educator. And he just didn't there was no outs with Lee Boyd Montgomery. And anyhow, went on and graduated. And when I married my wife in 1999, guess who was my best man? Lee Boyd Montgomery.
Oh.
These music directors that were just in my path along the way who says, I'm going to watch over you. He knew that I didn't like the summers when I was in college because I had nowhere to stay. Sometimes I would stay in the park down here in the community park, and I would just sleep in my 1975 Omega Oldsmobile. I had no windows. I mean, it was just, I was literally out in the open. The struggle was real. When my director found out, he says, Ricky, why don't you come live with us? Live with me and my wife, and we'll take care of you. And I didn't want to impose. I said, no, sir, I'll be good, because I really didn't have a safe place to go to here at home. There were still issues at the house. I didn't want to go back to Section 8. Didn't want to bother my grandmother. There was other situations that were happening there. But what I knew is that if I kept working hard and if I kept listening to the right voices, you see, listening to the right voices is very important. And at the college, I found that at Texas Lutheran. And so much to the point that my high school counselor was there when I graduated from TOU, Texas Lutheran. She was there. Now, I knew she had to be there the night I graduated from high school. That's part of her job. I get that. But for her to protect time and space to go to my university graduation, that spoke volumes. And she was there. And when I got my master's degree, she says, Mijito, now you're going to go get your master's. And I'm thinking, no, miss, I'm good. This is further than I ever thought I would go. And she says, I need you to get your master's. And I did in 2001. And then she said, I need you to get your superintendency, and you need to get your doctorate at some point. I don't know when, but Mijito, you need to get that. She said, because you have a powerful story and you have to tell that at some point. And I said, no, miss, I'm good. And she goes, I may not be there to see you get your doctoral degree, but I'm going to have the best seat in the house. And let me tell you, in 2022 in December, when I was behind that stage at Texas Tech University, boy, tears just rolled down my eyes. I was just so teary and emotional because I knew that Miss Lázaro, she had since passed, but I knew she had the best seat in the house.
She was watching.
And she sowed the seed. She spoke that into me. She says, Mijito, you are going to go places that you never even imagined. And I said, Miss, I can't see that far. She goes, what's your dream? I go, Miss, I'm just trying to survive the weekend.
Right.
I'm just trying to see if we're going to have food on the table. I'm not thinking about my future. And I think that's a struggle that's still very real for a lot of kids now, especially in some of the areas in the urban cores of our cities, is that the struggle is still there. But my message is a message of hope that you can do it, that it is within you. And we've have to be real mindful of the conversations, the internal dialogues that we have. And I still have, let me tell you, I wish I can tell you that I still don't have those, when you grow up in poverty, I think it does something to you where you still grow up, even at my age, even as a high school principal, where you still go through seasons of doubt and you still second guess and you still question. And I know people see me, they see the coat, they see the tie, they may think, oh, that's Dr. Flores. And they may think, everything is well put together. But let me tell you, I still go through some of those internal dialogues because I want the best for our community. I want our kids to know that when you come here to Lanier, yes, we want to elevate you academically. That's top priority. But number one is I want to make sure that you're well. I want to make sure that Lanier is a hope center for our kids, that when they come here, they feel loved, that they feel supported. See, sometimes we're so concerned with state exams, and I get it. We're so concerned with accountability, and I certainly get that. But we forget about addressing the child and the needs of where they're at and meeting our students exactly where they're at emotionally and academically while suspending judgment and then elevating them from there. I have an individual who speaks into my life. He says, Ricky, the only time that you should look down on someone is when you're giving them their hand, when you're giving them your hand. My responsibility, your responsibility, Rick, is to lift people up. And that's the lens from which I choose to view this important work is how are we elevating our communities? And, my grandmother would always say in Spanish, she would say, Mijito, if whatever you're a part of, if it's not becoming better, then ask yourself the question, why are you there? Why are you there? And my goal is we continue to elevate the community here so that we can have better and more responsive community members, because at some point I had a few conversations today, certainly lend itself. I told my students here, make decisions that your future self will thank you for. And I said, Mijito, Mijita, I am 54 years young. Now, how young are you? Sir, I'm 16. Make decisions at 16 that when you turn 54, like your principal, that you're going to say, I'm sure glad that I made that decision.
Wow.
And you know what, mijita or son, you may not always get it right because none of us do. But you know what? Every day the goal is this. Can I do a little bit better today than I did yesterday? That's the goal. It's not perfection, but it's, can we just be excellent at our work?
All of those people, and now you're carrying it forward with all of the students in your care, it seems that they understood how to strike that balance where there was so much love and care, and they understood that an aspect of that was pushing you, and that was in fact protecting you.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of times with students, especially who have difficult circumstances, we either push them with no safe container or we protect them and lower expectations. Yes. But your story is the perfect illustration that in the safe container, you can push kids to their maximum potential, and that is protective of their future selves, of their current selves.
Yes, absolutely. And let me tell you, we have this college career military readiness, which is very important, a big part of our accountability, here at the high schools in the state of Texas. And we've been able to elevate our college career military readiness from 73%. And today last year we ended at 98%. 98% of our kiddos are college career military readiness. Earlier today, I asked for our percentage for this graduating class of 2026. We're at 97.11. We're continuing to elevate. We're continuing to push the envelope. I dare anyone to tell me we can't do something, because we're going to do something. And because I want to make sure that my kiddos here have just every opportunity. You see, once you taste success, you're going to want to pursue that. And that's what I want for our kids.
Man, I mean, when you think about your story and all the people on the path and what happened to you when you got to college, in the absence of all those people, we have robbed ourselves from the Dr. Ricky Flores of the world. If we don't build in that access and opportunity, we're literally robbing our communities of the use.
Yeah.
And that's not only terrible for you, it's terrible for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my mentors at the university once said, he says, Ricky, if you're not the most passionate individual about what you chose to major in, then who's the problem? And I'm thinking, gosh, boy, you sure put that one on the line. But there's a lot of truth to that. And so I understand that to whom much is given, much is required. And it's important that I'm on my best each and every day for our kiddos. So I've had to make some changes just health-wise. Now I'm getting up. I get up, 5:15, 5:30. I find myself going to the gym in the morning because I have to decompress, making sure that I'm mentally prepared when I get here to work so that I can be at my best. And I have a ways to go, but I've made that commitment. And it's been a little bit over a year now. And it's just been a total game changer that I come to work with a lot more energy. And it's just a matter of getting my body into a rhythm and into a routine. Because when I get here, I am wide awake. I no longer need the coffee, although I still have it. I enjoy my coffee in the mornings. But the kiddos sometimes are like, sir, where do you get all this energy from? And even my own children this morning, I messaged them on the way to school. And I said, guys, I want to tell you, I love school. I just love school. And I've been in school since I was 5 years old. I'm 54 now. So for 49 years, I've been in school. It's been the safest place for me. I don't know people, and sometimes we talk about, hey, how far am I from retirement? And I'm thinking, this is all I've ever known. This is all I've ever loved. To think that season, really sunsetting is really emotional for me because school has been the best place for me. And it was back in kindergarten when I was in the principal's office, like it is today as I'm sitting here speaking to you. I love school because I know what schools can do. And more important than just the building, it's the people. It's the relationships. It's not only the content that you learn, it's about the care that we demonstrate for those that we have been entrusted to serve. We're in the public service business. My kiddos being successful, not only academically, but being social and emotionally well is top priority for me. I want my kids to have the skill set that when life gets hard out there, outside of the brick and mortar of the high school, I want for them to be able to stand. Tell you what, our kids are very rich in. They're rich in potential. They're rich in grit. They have resilience. They have perseverance. And they have what's called ganas, right? They have the desire to always want to do better. And, I think having the right, I always thought, I read a lot of John Maxwell talking about people being I said people are the most important asset that we have in an organization. And John Maxwell says that people are not the most important asset you have. However, it's the right people. You've got to have the right people on the bus that have a care and a compassion for the audience that we're going to be serving. And Lisa Delpet's educational research, she says, and I'm paraphrasing, how can you teach me if you don't know me? And behind every desk, there's a story. And if we don't take the time to get to know their story, why should they care about our content? We have to get to know our kiddos and and I'm not saying going deep, but at least have some knowledge of our students, finding a way to connect with our kiddos that can be very meaningful, because our kiddos will do anything for us. So I tell some of our teachers, attend these CTE activities, attend athletic events, attend the fine arts events and concerts. And when the students see you in a space that you don't have to be in, I mean, you have to be the core teacher. But when the core teacher goes into another space and see their students, and I said, kiddos may not always remember how long you were there at their event, but they will remember that you were there.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah. It's so powerful. Okay, so I have so many more questions. I really could extend this far beyond anyone's capacity to listen. So I want to hone in on something that you shared, and then I want to make sure there's nothing we left on the table that you wanted to cover. When you were talking about your kids and they're sitting you down and saying, this is what we want to do and this is why, and all I could think about was the young you, early married, going, I don't know what parenting looks like. I don't know what being a good husband looks like. And that whole picture you painted. And I'm like, oh, well, you got it right. I don't know anything about the details, but I can tell you 100% got it right. If your young adult children are thinking like they're thinking about how to show up in community, how to carry legacy forward, it makes me want to weep.
Yes. I'll tell you that when I think about that moment with my kids at the kitchen table, that was, very, very powerful. And just last weekend, I took my senior to a university here to go audition for the School of Music. This Saturday, I have both auditioning at another university for the School of Music. And then March 28th, they both have another audition at TOU. And I said, I don't know if you're interested in TOU, but that's where I graduated from. So you're going to do that one for me. That's the bonus one. Go audition and let's see what there's in store for you. And so, to me, I'm grateful, right? And you're right. That was more of the affirmation. I once they said legacy, any argument that I had that would be counter was really null and void at that. When I heard that term legacy, it was just like, okay, we got it. Tell me what I can do to support you and to help you. And even here at the high school, our seniors are getting ready for graduation and they're getting scholarship notices and, they're getting acceptance letters. And I had a conversation with a young lady outside my office with her college advisor. And I said, you've got to tell me a little bit of your story. And I said, what university? I just signed a scholarship for volleyball to play volleyball at the next level. I said, hey, congratulations. What universities and which one are you favoring? And what are you thinking you're going to study? And I said, so tell me about mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, tia. Who is it that you live with? And she said, I live with my grandmother. And I didn't want to go any further than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that is so awesome. I bet your grandmother is very proud of you. She goes, she is. I said, can I share something with you? I said, give me a sec. I'll come right back. Came into my office. We're right next door here. And I got a picture of me and my grandmother. And I took it to her. I said, you see, this is my grandmother. She's the one I spend most of my childhood time with. Everything for her. She was like my best buddy in the world. Everything. I said, go home today. Give your grandma a big hug and tell her thank you. Because me too, mijita. It was my grandmother who made the biggest difference for me at home. So she was just like so proud. And it was just taking some time to get to know her. I never knew that about her. I never knew that she was being raised by her grandparents. And like I said, just that little nugget, finding a way to just connect, throughout the whole school, I just look at it as connections. All day long, I have opportunities as I'm in the hallways going portable, going into classrooms. The power of just connecting with people with my kids is so important, even with my teachers, that some may be going through some challenges just when life hits. It's not fair and it hits hard. Just getting a text message that says, hey, you know what? I just want to follow up and I'm going to check on you. Are you doing well? Is there anything that I can do to better support you? It's those little things that make a big, big difference. I told my wife, I said, no one cares about the doctoral degree on the wall. That's just for me, right? It punctuates the journey, if anything, right? But it's how are you taking care of the people? That to me that's my abuelita taught me.
Yes.
And my grandfather was like, mijito, I don't care how many pieces of paper you have on your wall. You better take care of people and never forget where you came from. And I'm back in the same zip code that I grew up in.
Legacy.
This is 78207.
More
I'm
legacy.
Home.
Yeah, you're home.
I'm home.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously for this hour, but so much more for being the human that you are, doing the work that you do. I'm so inspired by you. And just like, this is a time for cloning. Because we need 3,000 of you by tomorrow morning at 8 to sprinkle throughout the country. Well,
thank you. And again, I just say thank you for having me, and know that, this work is very important. We need the right people in these positions, right? And thank you for the work that you do, because the work that you do gets the word out about some of the things that we're doing here, what I call right on the dance floor, right on the front lines. This is important work, but it's going to take all of us, right? Yeah. Coming together to say, hey, we need one another. And we are better together when we come together. And to me, it's what a privilege as I navigate through year 30, I'm thinking, oh my, this started in 1996. Here I am 30 years later. And what a privilege to me that, every day I look forward to continuing to write my story. And because it's powerful to me, the story is a story of let's not give up on this next generation of young people. Not everything is bad. Unfortunately, a lot of what we read and we see can be very, very negative. And there are some challenges, but at the same time, we have about 95% of our students that are really doing amazing work. They never get highlighted. And we have that 5% that continue to need the best of us to show up for them daily and to show them a different way of doing life. And that's okay, because the goal is, can we be a little bit better today? And can I be, for example, let us start with me, because expectations in the work of Todd Whitaker in educational research, Todd Whitaker says expectations begin with self first. I told my administrators today in closing, and I said, hey guys, I'm going to leave you with this. You have got to be the type of leader that you would want to follow. And if you wouldn't follow you, then why should anyone else? Why should anyone else? So we have got to be the best version of ourselves daily, because that's what the organization needs. We need to be the calm in the storm. We need to be like in the center of that storm. We need to bring the peace to those around us and lower the temperature in our schools. because together we can really do some great things for our kids. And you know what? Our kids are worth it. My families are worth it. And this profession, for those considering going into education, it's completely worth it.
Completely worth it. So much legacy throughout everything you shared today. I know your former educators, your abuelita, your children, your wife, your team. I know they must all be so proud to have you in their corner and also as their guide.
Yes, ma'am. You know, we have to be that GPS for our kids. We have to be the GPS for our kids. And to me, this is a tremendous opportunity. And I'm grateful. I don't take this lightly. This is a space of privilege that I know someday I'm only here for a season. But I know that I'm here for a reason, for a season. I'm not here for a lifetime. My lifetime is my family. And it's showing up every day for those which I've been entrusted to serve. And then also showing up for my family, because my wife needs her husband and my children need their dad. And what a no greater honor than being a husband and being a father.
So lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Flores. Thank you, Rick. You're amazing. I will forever be in your fan club.
Thank you.
And really grateful for you.
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate you. Likewise.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we are back, and people got a tiny taste of the extraordinary Dr. Rick Flores. How are you thinking about all this, Chris?
Oh, he's just so moving and inspirational. I have to say that when we met him briefly, or I met him briefly at the TCSS conference last summer, his energy is through the roof.
Yeah.
You can't talk to him and not just feel excited and inspired.
Yeah.
He's doing his job well.
Yeah, he's pretty magnetic.
He really
and
is.
I think it's because it goes all the way down to his toes. You know, like it's just so honest.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I kind of made 3 points from his early story that I wanted to talk about. And you just kind of touched on one of them, which is I think that his story is so different because it's a lived experience versus something you might read about in a book. And I think it just lands differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that jumped out to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes me think of Brian Stevenson's Get Proximate.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the most proximate he could possibly be. He's back in his neighborhood. He's back where he's home, as he said. And he understands at the deepest level the experience of the community. And so anything he has to say, it has gravitas. It has the chances of him being tone deaf to the realities of the people he serves are almost nil, which, you know, for most of us, we spend 30, 40, 50, 70% in the tone deaf department. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then for those of us who aren't having that same experience, he just makes you feel it, which is what, when you said you were close to weeping, and I could see it in your face just watching the interview, that was true. That feels like why.
Love it. Okay, so that was one. You said
that
you
was
had
one.
3?
Yes. Well, I thought a lot about his comment. He said, I was determined at a very young age that I was going to live life differently. And so I really thought about what caused him to feel that way. Because you could look at the scenario and not feel that way. What caused him to feel that way? And I really just started thinking about, he wasn't in a place where he could dream himself. He said that he was too worried about food and just, you know, what was right in front of him. But he had this whole collective of people that were dreaming on his behalf. And it wasn't even his dream, but they believed in him so much it became his dream. It was like this collective dream for his life. And I think there's something deeper and metaphysical going on there. It made me think of Brent Beasley talking about pronoia. And it feels like this group of people breathed into life this story for him. And he bravely stepped up and lived it. But it was just such a collective dream that was powerful to me.
Ah, that is You're going to make me cry. Like
Oh,
that is,
good.
yeah, I'm right there. I'm right there.
What's
Okay, what
today?
was number 3?
Number 3 was just the power of strong and gentle men coming together to support him. That was interesting to me that he kept pointing out different men, and he specifically referred to one of them, and I've lost his name, apologies, to being a gentle man. And I think also part of his power is that he can speak to, in 9th grade, he considered taking his life. He can speak to, he's his hardest critic. Because I thought a lot about it as inspirational as he is and how he shows up the best version of himself. That in itself is hard. Like, I wonder, does he ever just want to sit at home and have a bad day? And does he allow himself to do that? But I just think it's really powerful that he can speak to the emotional side, the sensitive side from a position of power as a masculine man. And I would bet he attributes a lot of that to the men who surrounded him when he was younger.
Yeah, he is such a 2026 relevant example of masculinity. And we need relevant, strong, kind, community-oriented, non-self-dealing examples of masculinity. Yeah. And
That's a great way to say it, because I, as always, was thinking about my son and thought, I hope Jake turns out like him.
oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. I'm shooting for that tear.
Oh, yeah. What a compliment. That's got to be the biggest compliment anyone could get, that you hope your son turns out like him. Wow.
So those are my opening thoughts. What about you?
Yeah. I love all that. And one of the things that struck me is that even before we got out of the gate, he said, how do we focus on the opportunities? And then you could feel that through his whole life. Like, to your point, this merry band of educators, no pun intended with the word band.
Well, there kind of was.
Oh, you did that on purpose?
No, but when I wrote it down, I thought, oh, how appropriate.
I love
They've
it.
all got an instrument.
I can see it. Yeah. I forgot what I was saying. That they created that in him. They created this understanding that, like, at the edge of every shakeup, every crisis, every inequity, there is an opportunity for a leader to emerge, like Dr. Flores, that is just like off the charts, textured, not in spite of all the struggles he had, but because of them. Because of that, combined with these midwives, these educators who acted as midwives for his life, who understood the safe container and the high expectations equation, which, I'm telling you, that is not normal. People don't get that right very often, and they got it right. And I do think there's something divine going on. I think I've talked to you before about that school of thought that we have before we come onto the earth. We have we make some choices about what we're going to come into the earth to do, and we make some contracts with people who are going to assist at different points. So I love picturing him being like, okay, this is going to be my path, and I say yes to all of these hard things, and I recruit all of these incredible supports that are going to midwife me into my future.
Yeah, because think about if he would have said no. When someone first said that he was going to be a principal, what if he would have rolled his eyes and, walked the other way? But he didn't. He just, yes, he just accepted the dream and went and made it happen. Love it.
And what if the educators were feeling so emotionally blunted because of stress and burnout and all the things, that they weren't interacting with him in a way that presented him a dream.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like there's just so many inflection points.
It's such a reminder that the opportunity to shift trajectory is right there.
I
Right
mean,
there. I hope listeners feel inspired by listening to his story.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a story of an educator who probably was just like made an offhand comment and they were just doing their job, meant nothing, but it created an identity shift in your head?
I think I've told you that story before about Minnie Lawton, who was my French and English teacher. Remember?
Yeah, say it again.
I'll tell it really quickly because I've told it before on this podcast. But we were in class and someone raised their hand and used the phrase "Jude you down," and didn't understand that there was any kind of offensive connotation to those words. And she just stopped class and explained what it meant and loaded us all up on a bus and drove us to Dallas and took us to the Holocaust Museum and had us stand in that cattle car to feel what it felt like. And then later closed the loop and brought the story back up and, kind of asked, is anyone going to use that phrase again? And that was a real just shift for me. I think I don't know what grade I would have been in, 8th or 9th, maybe.
Powerful.
So yes, Minnie Lawton.
That's an educator that understands the power of being in deep relationship with your students over and above, I need to be on this page on this day and like that's where the real learning happens. And your example and the examples that Rick gave.
Well, and also just, I loved how he said multiple times, I knew they loved me and believed in me. Like that in itself was so shifting for him. Made me think of my mom was an educator for a long time, as you know, and her classroom was on the end and she was a rule breaker. Imagine that. So she would take kids outside and host class outside, all the things. But I mean, kids loved her and her classroom was sort of a lot of people's sanctuary when they needed a place to go. And they came out with you can't hug kids. And she just decided if she got escorted out the building, she would, because if she saw a child who needed a hug, she was giving them a hug. And I just, that people come up to us all the time. Your mother was my favorite teacher. Do you have a story
Incredible
that sticks out for you?
I might have also told it. I can't remember, but I had a teacher in middle school, Miss Bartek, who had us all in a line and she was doing like quiz, like giving us a quiz question. And then you were either in or out and then you would keep going around the class, So it was really a fun way to learn. And when we were all lining up, she said, I can't wait till it's your turn because you are smart or something offhand, like guaranteed. It was just business as usual for her, was not a big deal, but it made me see myself differently because I'm not that smart.
Nice recovery.
Yeah. It's just those little moments of, I see you and I'm willing to speak identity into you. And sometimes the identity that gets spoken into kids is aspirational, but it can create the kind of story that we heard from Rick. It's incredible.
So incredible.
The stopping of the 8th grade ceremony to single him out and lay out what was going to happen across his future, and the fact that all of the families were there, but his family wasn't. And I'm like, was the person who did that holding that community with such care that they understood that this remarkable young boy did not have a familial presence there, and it was an intentional, gonna make sure he feels seen by all the rest of us. Like, come on. If you aren't about to weep, check your soul. It's so touching.
It's so touching. It would make such a good movie. Get the popcorn, get the candy.
You're like writing the screenplay. I can imagine you've got the
Isn't that what you did last
night? Love it.
I appreciated, because his energy is so contagious and inspirational, I appreciated that he was so direct about, I have to fill my own cup so I can serve others. Very clear that serving teachers is his mission, or the adults in the building, I guess we should say, right now. But I liked the things that he does, and some of them he didn't even list as the ways that he fill his cup, but they so clearly were. So maybe we talk through those.
Yeah. What do you got?
Well, family. He was very explicit about his family, and wife of 27 years and I think 4 kids he has.
Mm-hmm.
But music, like that vision of, I was just kind of seeing the Von Trapps as a family all sitting around, singing and playing their instruments. I loved that. I also, it jumped out to me, and especially after the podcast with Amanda Carroll talking where she dipped her toe back into counseling and kind of got charged back up. I think that's what music and getting to lead those bands does for him. Like it takes him back to the basics. And there's a lot of oxygen in that, I think. I know for me, I think I shared with you, I used to be a pretty good piano player, and I can't remember all the music now. So I went back to my original kid books from when I was 10, and I am having so much fun playing those because it's just so simple and so easy, and I can sit down and play through the whole book. But that's what it made me think of, just the simplicity of going back to basics of what your original love was is soul filling. Obviously his connection with the kids and teachers fill him up. And I also think telling his story is probably something that charges him. And that's probably that continuation of pronoia and the self-fulfilling prophecy. The more he gets to tell it, kids hear it.
Yeah.
And then he's setting his sights on superintendent and, just completing all that. And then lastly, he seems to do such a good job at celebrating and noticing the collection of little moments. I think he referred to them as God weep moments.
It isn't, and you call them God winks.
Yeah.
And that's what
it could have just been how it transcribed it, but it transcribed it God weep on my.
No, I think
did he say wink?
Say wink.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember going, oh my God, that's what Chris calls them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he just seemed, he almost got caught up in describing, I was with 85 middle school kids, playing the band today. So I loved all that.
And his, he was so cute talking about getting up every morning and going to the gym and being a year into that commitment to himself and also how that affects his day. And
calling his kids to say he's on his way to school and he just loves school at 54. Like, how cool is that to do something that you still love that much?
Do you think I would be arrested if I requested to be included in their family chat? Is that too much? Have I crossed into stalker territory?
I don't think so.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Can you imagine their family chat?
I would prefer to be part of their family jam session.
Oh, yes. You would belong there. Absolutely. Does your family have a chat thread, and what is it called?
We do. Kent family.
Okay.
What about you? I know you have one.
We do. And we named it Mount Roughmore.
Oh, my. Listeners, Michelle has 5 dogs.
And they appear prominently in the text chains. They're kind of the stars of our family's glue. So,
oh my.
You have to fake delight when I talk about my dogs.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. I can see it. I know what your fake delight looks like and what your real delight looks like.
Busted.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. It's okay. You'll get yours. I'm just kidding. Okay, what else? Did you finish your list of the
I did.
things?
Yes.
There's a lot of overlap in his list and your list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, how about him talking about intentionally getting detention so that he could have that safety, intentionally going to school as early as possible so he could get hot breakfast, going to bed early because he needed to because he was hungry, and like all of those things to me put in perspective that the school building is about so much more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. And anyone who denies that or misunderstands that is misunderstanding the true needs of the kids in our communities. And like any conversation about school breakfast, school lunch, like things built into systems that respectfully and with dignity meet the needs of children who maybe don't have all their needs met. If you are thinking those aren't important, you have to start thinking about the little Rickies. Like it's not a nice to have. It was his safety net. And in the absence of safety, kids can't learn. So it's just critical. It's a moral obligation we have.
Absolutely. Moral obligation for sure. I love that he referred to it as a hope center. I mean, that says everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And what a smart kid he must have been. I mean, you can tell he's so smart as an adult, but he must have been so savvy to engage in the system in the way that he did to get his needs met.
So savvy. And again, what was inside of him that made him wake up and say, I'm going to live life differently?
Yeah.
It's very
that was his
profound to me.
grandmother. I wonder if something in his relationship with his grandmother that lit that up, or something entirely different. There, we'll have to have a part 2.
Dun, dun, dun.
What else have you got?
I mean, can you imagine if your children looked at you and said, this is our story, this is our legacy?
Stop it. I'd pass out.
I would pass out too.
Well, I mean, Jake kind of has said that about continuing your work in the world.
He has. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's after the NFL, of course.
In his spare time.
Yes, it was just really beautiful. What it brought up for me, because I don't think that I've like fully put together the pieces of how we landed here together doing Oxygen for Educators and all the different things that converged to bring us here. But as you know, my grandmother passed away and we had her funeral 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? And I delivered the eulogy. And so there were things about my grandmother, who was one of my very best friends, that I didn't know. And one of them really came to life for me when I listened to his story. And he described being in line in college and getting that bill and walking to the car, and the woman who came out and brought him back in. That's what my grandmother did. And I did not know that she was given a humanitarian award for all of the kids that she helped get funding to get through college until I delivered that eulogy.
Oh my
yes.
God.
And so to think that, and then my mother was an educator, and everywhere I go, someone comes up to me. I get texts of photos of her in the classroom saying she was my favorite teacher. All of that combined, it just made me realize, okay, I'm doing something connected to what my grandmother and my mother did.
Wow.
So I just appreciated, number one, the story and that his kids see him that way, but it helped me see myself in context of my family too.
And legacy. Oh, that's so cool.
Because I feel like I'm always thinking about it from a different lens, not looking back at where it came from.
Yeah, you're looking forward. Yeah. But to look back is kind of
Yeah.
contextually grounds everything.
Uh-huh. And kudos to him for being someone whose children would say that. Oof.
I mean, and also it was really powerful to see how them saying that completely tilted the prism for him. Like it changed the entire conversation for him. And the way he said, what do you need from me?
How can I help you?
How can I help you? And that's how he talks to his educators every day, the students every day, like that. How can I help you? And don't get it twisted. We are here for sacred, life-changing work. That is so, let's move to San Antonio, join his family, join his team. This is getting super awkward, but I really want to.
Yeah, he's wonderful. What else did you have on your list?
Well, I want to make sure we say out loud how intentional he is about getting out of his office and doing his work on that portable desk and just being in the hallways,
the show on the road.
taking the show on the road. The norm he has that the educators in the system are at the door during passing periods, and it's so and he was so astute when he said, if people don't see you, they make up stories. His understanding of what creates strong communities, strong culture, the way he ends the day on the announcements every day. It's like, take care of yourselves because that matters. Take care of each other because it's the right thing to do. Take care of our school. I mean, he just gets it. He gets it.
He so gets it. I would actually love to invite him to Dallas to become the principal at Woodrow Wilson High School. We're on a principal search right now. Jake Phelps could use you.
Somebody needs to tap him for, everything. But that's the thing. I bet he would do so well, and he's going to influence change in any role he has. And I bet he will grieve every role he moved out of because he's so committed. Oh,
do you think that we sound like groupies
watch
today?
Yes,
I think so too.
Awkward. We're so awkward. Yeah, no, 100%. We do. Rah. What are you gonna do? But that was my first note. Is like it's really hard to pick out like pieces of what happened in that interview that are important, quote unquote, because it supersedes the content. It's his presence. It's his story. It's his embodied commitment. Like it's so electric.
Agreed.
Said like a groupie would say it. All right. I'm looking at, I only have one more thing. Do you want me to say it?
Sure.
I thought his call to all of us to pay attention to how we talk about education and taking seriously the recruitment of the best and the brightest and our role in shaping narrative that makes it attract those folks was really powerful and really good.
It was really powerful. I actually have that as my last point to talk about because, as a good leader does, I felt like he was speaking directly to us too. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? And it made me think about, okay, how can we leverage all of this amazing content from educators across the country that we're collecting to help inspire other people to be like the people, to do the work in the way that the people that are coming on this podcast do it. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I don't have the answer yet, but as you can imagine, I have a long list of ideas that we can talk about, imagine. But we kind of owe him that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We owe him that.
Absolutely. Well, are you done?
I am done. I could sit and talk about him forever or listen to him talk
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back and listen to his a couple times with some space in between, because it was impossible to fully absorb in the moment being with him, listening again. So there's just so much there.
There's a lot. And I hope our listeners love this. And also, if listeners have ideas for how we can leverage what we're doing to inspire new people to enter the profession, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Just a reminder to everyone that this is a co-created project. We want to co-create it with the listeners. So yes, please let us know your thoughts. And I guess with that, it's a wrap. It is not Katie's birthday the day this comes out, but it is Katie's birthday the day that we're recording. So a special thanks to our producer, Katie Warden.
And I think Michelle wanted to
birthday.
sing her happy birthday, right, Michelle?
I did. Bad connection. Gotta go. Truly, thank you, Chris. Thank you to everyone who listens, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guest and host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content is provided for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to use their own judgment and seek appropriate professional support when needed. Oxygen for Educators, its host and production partners are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast.